for our last segment on week 3 of the season. So far, we have 5 teams that are 3-0 and 5 teams that are unfortunately winless at 0-3. Now, for those 3-0 teams, which would be Denver, Las Vegas, our Carolina Panthers, the Rams, and the Cardinals, which teams look the strongest for you and which ones look like they're more pretenders than really contenders?
So I'll mention the Broncos here first. They confuse me because I think the way they perform looks very dominating and they look very good. But their opponents have a combined record of 0-9. They beat the Giants, Jags, and Jets. So I don't want to label them pretenders, but I don't want to label them contenders. So they're kind of stuck in the median for me. The Raiders, I think I'm definitely going to call contenders right now. They've had some close games, but they look to be kind of strong. I'd like to say that the Panthers are contenders as well. The Jets game was a little shaky, and I mean the Texans and Saints weren't exactly amazing, but I think that they are doing pretty good. They'll get a good test against the Cowboys coming up soon. Uh, um, the Rams are contenders all the way, regardless of beating the 0-3 Colts. The way they perform, they're contenders. And the Cardinals, I think, should be pretty good. I think the Cardinals may be the first of these 3-0 teams. Well, the Broncos, I don't think are going to be 3-0 or 4-0, but I think the Cardinals will probably end up falling first, them and the Broncos, but I do think they're still pretty good. They just keep having some weird close, like the way they started against the Jags and then the way the Vikings played against them. They've had some interesting things happen since that dominating defensive performance against the Titans. Which ones do you think are contenders or pretenders?
So I kind of go the same as you. The Broncos, I did think that the Broncos were pretty solid. We were talking about this going back to the draft. Once we found out that they got Patrick Surtain, and then we're like, all right, they should be pretty good this year. Now I don't want to be too critical of them because they are 3-0. They have played the probably 3 worst teams in the league right now, record wise and just overall wise to me. But they have dominated those teams. So they did what they had to do against 3 bad teams. I can't really fault them for that. You can't pick your schedule, so you can only play against who you're scheduled to play against. So they did what they had to do. I think once we see some more tests for them, and they go up against better teams, then we can kind of see. Think the Raiders are for real. They did beat the Ravens Monday night. They did beat the Steelers, and their last win against the Dolphins was pretty close, a lot closer than we thought. But either way, they are 3-0. I think they're for real. For our Panthers, I guess it's just the pessimistic Panther fan in me. I don't want to overreact too much, but I think we're all right. I don't think that you will be winning, 13 games. I would like to, but I think we're good. Again, we can only play who's on the schedule. We beat the same Jets that the Broncos beat. We beat the Texans. Obviously, their quarterback situation is going down in just a few weeks. And of course, we beat the Saints when they were kind of iffy. But I think we're good. Like you said, we'll get a test against the Cowboys. And depending on how we play in that game, and once Christian McCaffrey is able to come back, we obviously won't be having JC Horn. But I think we'll be good. And obviously, the Rams are probably the best out of these teams, along with the Cardinals. And that Cardinals game against the Jags, they did win, by double digits at the end. But I think it is showing like, hey, Cardinals can be beat. And with that Rams Cardinals matchup this weekend, you know, the Cardinals will probably be taking their first L of the season.
I definitely agree there. That's kind of what I was mentioning with earlier, saying that they're going to fall first because they play the Rams, and then I had to backtrack and kind of say the Broncos too because they play the Ravens. So I do think those are going to be two 3-0 teams that end up becoming 3-1. But what I'm interested to see is how the Broncos perform against the Ravens. So I don't really expect a win, but we did just see the Lions kind of push the Ravens further than they should have. So we'll see how a team like the Broncos do. Now, we have 5 teams that are also 0-3, as we mentioned, unfortunately for them. And I don't think these teams are very surprising that are here, but they are the Giants, the Jets, the Jags, the Colts, and the Lions. So, of these, which ones do you think are doomed, and then which ones do you think are kind of should be able to crawl back out?
So we discussed this last episode, I think it was, and we were talking about the Jaguars. Could they even win a game this year? They might be able to beat the Texans later on, depending on their quarterback situation. And we mentioned the Bengals. Hey, they probably not beating the Bengals on Thursday night. I don't really see that one happening now, um, because the Bengals have been playing pretty well, a lot better than I thought they were going to. So I would say the Jags and the Jets probably in the worst positions here. The Giants are. I don't really know what's up with the Giants anymore. I mean, they can't really figure it out. They just find ways to lose. Like I said, they got beat up by Denver. Then they lose on the last second field goal to the Falcons and Washington. It's just they find ways to lose. They could beat the Eagles or something, and they could steal wins here and there, but it's probably not going to be another good year for. It's not going to be a good year for the Giants. Now for the Colts, it's kind of sucky for them because they should have been good this year with Carson Wentz. He's replacing Phillip Rivers after he's replacing Jacoby Brissett because of Andrew Luck's retirement. Blah blah blah. Now you kind of have this situation where they just can't get a win so far. Now they have played very good teams. They lost to the Seahawks. They lost to the Rams. Lost to the Titans. They've had injuries that have affected them. I think they'll be good going forward. I don't see them being a playoff team at this point because now that you start 0-3, it's a whole lot harder to make the playoffs, even with 7 teams. And then for the Lions, they're not horrible. I mean, they could have beat the 49ers. They were coming back on them. They get beat up by the Packers, and then they very well could have beat the Ravens. So I don't think the Lions are straight garbage. They won't be very good this season, but I don't think this is another year of like the Lions being absolutely horrible. But I think the fans would agree with me here that they probably just need some new ownership and just a whole new, not rebranding, so to speak, but they just need a rebirth because it's just, they find ways to lose, man. I feel bad for the fans in Detroit there, but again, I don't think they'll be god awful, but they're probably not going to win a whole lot.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you on most of these points. I will say before I get into breaking down each team, I think being a Jets fan would be less painful than being a Giants or a Lions fan. As a Jets fan, I would assume we're just going to get smacked every game. But the Giants and Lions, they give you so much hope during the games, and they just find new impressive ways to lose each week. Like
Yeah.
you're like, oh, here they come, and then there they go. And it's just that fast. For the Giants, I think their division gives them a good chance of maybe not being completely doomed, but I don't think playoffs is an option. They almost made the playoffs last year with some of the mess that happened in that division at the end, but I don't think that's going to be an option for them again. Denver dominated them, and then those two, like barely L's. They shouldn't really have been, I don't think, but they were, and that seems to be a trend for how the Giants play. And really, what the surprising thing is, usually the Falcons find a way to fumble a game at the end like that. So I guess the Giants are trying to outdo them. Pick the wrong area to do that in. The Jets, probably the most doomed out of these groups here. They have just looked pitiful. They did okay against the Panthers, but they got shut out by the Broncos, and they let Mac Jones come in and or I don't remember if that was an away or a home game, but Bill Belichick and the defense of the Patriots just tore Zach Wilson apart, and I think that's probably going to be a common theme as we keep going through the season. I mean, we saw it happen again. I don't think he threw 4 interceptions, but he got shut out by the Broncos defense. Same thing with the Jags here. The Jags probably have a chance to beat the Texans if Tyrod Taylor is not the one who is starting, but maybe not. I mean, I think they're a little better than the Davis Mills led Texans, but I do think they're also going to be kind of stuck at the bottom of the league again. They did lose to the Cardinals and the Broncos, who are also 3-0, and they're not bad teams, at least so far. And they looked very good at the beginning of the Cardinals game. They got like 109 yard. I don't even know what you call it. The kick didn't go in. He caught the kick and then ran. So impressive, very impressive. But I don't think that's going to be an every week kind of thing. That kick was also a super long kick, and it's probably easy to predict that it's going to come up short. So I think the Jags are probably going to float at the bottom. But these next two teams here, I think, have a chance to maybe do a little something. The Colts, they lost to the Seahawks, they lost to the Rams, and now they lost to the Titans. They have probably played them and the Lions have probably played the strongest three here, even though these teams aren't all 3-0. As a matter of fact, the Seahawks are 1-2. But these are very good teams. We know that. And the Colts have just been unlucky. And I think they have a chance to maybe climb out. They just got to put a little more effort into things. Naheem Hines has been really trying. Carson Wentz has been in and out of being able to play. And I don't know. They've had a confusing season. I don't think they're a playoff team. But yeah, I mean, they're in the division with the Jaguars and that group. So it's not like they're in a super hard division to kind of climb up out of, the Jaguars and Texans and Titans. I think the Titans will lead that for sure. But the Colts could maybe find themselves getting second place. It's just very hard, as Terrence said, to climb out from being down 0-3. The Lions, though, I think are probably the best 0-3 team. I don't think that's like super hard to agree with. I mean, they almost beat the 49ers week 1, and we see that the Niners are really good. The Packers, they got hit by the Aaron Rodgers revenge game, so that is what it is. But then the Ravens game, they really should have and could have won that one. They just got super unlucky. I mean, what are the odds? Dude pulls up to take a field goal that's never been hit before and hits it. So it's just sad. They definitely have a chance to pull off some wins this season and not look as pitiful as they've been looking. But I think going through a rebrand and a rebirth, as you put it, that would be best for them. They need some new changes at the top of the organization. I think what they've been doing with trying to rebuild the actual team, like the players and stuff, not very bad. I do think that the Lions are trying to climb out of the hole they're in. They just can't keep fumbling these kind of games. To be fair, they crawled back against the Niners. They got kind of torn down at first, so it wasn't like they fumbled a game that they had in their hands. They just couldn't quite muster up enough steam to come all the way back. But with the Ravens, they could have had that game. That was their game, especially with Hollywood Brown of the Ravens just not catching anything. Lions could have taken that one, but they don't. And I don't know. They fall to 0-3, and I think maybe they will be decent. Not a playoff team, but they should at least win a good amount of games here. I think, honestly, I think 8-8 or like 7-9. Well, these aren't possible records anymore, but the kind of the equivalent of those is not a outrageous prediction for them.